order this evening's March 25th regular council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Walton. Here. Bizzard.
Here.
Bellinger.
Here.
Wise.
Here.
Rhines.
Here.
Gilroy.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
All right, and I am looking for approval of agenda unless there are any changes that any council member would like to suggest or make.
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Now we have an opportunity for audience participation with a maximum of 5 minutes per presentation. If there's anybody out there that would like to come forward to the podium, I see smiling faces. Is it like eeny, meeny, miny?
Can we both go?
Yeah, absolutely. State your name, your address, and thank you.
Yeah, my name's Nate Falpage. I live with my wife and 3 kids on Riverside Street.
All right,
Jeff Gorsline, 545 Cedar Ridge Drive.
all right. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right.
So to tell you a little bit about why we're here, I run with my wife a fitness center in town, Williamston CrossFit. We started it in 2012 out of our garage on Riverside Street, and then we moved into a pole barn outside of town there to the west of town. Our membership grew from my brother to like 12 people at the pole barn, and then we moved into town to where we're currently at in like 2014. We currently are located behind Napa on Grand River there. And our membership since 2014 has grown from the 12 people that we brought there to over 80 people with spin classes and yoga and CrossFit going on. We also started up a nonprofit called Love to Play in last year, where we offer scholarships to low-income kids and get them participating in activities and trying to educate them on a healthy diet and what it means to live a healthy lifestyle. So we've done all that and we've grown, and now we're looking for a new place to relocate as we've kind of outgrown the single bay door location we're at now. And an opportunity has come up on Railroad Street to where we'd be able to convert a storage facility into our fitness center. And this has been since December, January. We've been working with the city trying to come up with the sketch plan. And so I guess I'm here tonight just to say that it's been a long 3 months of working with the city and trying to come up with a solution to something that I feel like should be fairly straightforward, as it's zoned for that, and it's just a change of use. So I'm not familiar with the ordinances, although over the last 3 months I've gotten more and more familiar with all the ordinances. But it seems like something that's a little simpler than what it has been over the last 3 months. So that's what I'm here today, to just kind of communicate that to you guys.
I'm here as a friend, member of the CrossFit gym, which I've been for about 3 years and I love it. It's changed my life. And building owner of the building that I think could be a perfect opportunity for Nate and Emily and their business. And so we're just here to introduce the project, and been working with Corey quite a bit, as well as Aaron and Scott. And I know that, with the master plan and with the streets initiative and everything that's been going on, what we're hoping for is that this project can be financially feasible. Mm-hmm. And with all of the ordinances and requirements, there's no way. And Nate's gotten pricing and he's worked through this, and I also operate too as a financial advisor, so we work through all the numbers and the budget. And to have to complete all of the ordinances, I think is going to make this project just not profitable for him. Mm-hmm. Our hope really is to get in front of the Planning Commission and to be able to discuss the project. Nate's gone through and done the application, checks cash, ready to go. I know there's an issue with the seal and the sketch plan, and that's, I think, a very simple thing that can be, hopefully, we can get that done and move forward. But if the Planning Commission had the opportunity, we think that, I know the Planning Commission has the ability to modify or amend if necessary. And that would be the exciting step, is to start looking at, things that we've discussed with Aaron and Scott and some with Corey on maybe there is a way to make this work. I love this town, I love the city. It's struggle sometimes to get through certain things, and I think that, you know, my rundown building, which is a storage building, to have some energy back in that spot, I think would be exciting. For me personally, I'd love to sell it, because then I could use that to put 8,000 back in my roof in town here, and do some upkeeps on Colonial Square as well. So there's certain things that, you know, that we need to do. So it's a win-win for everybody, just wishing that it wouldn't take 3 to 4 months to get to that spot.
Sure.
Yeah, and would just like to add to that, I mean, it is a win-win for everybody, and we've got in our membership, I mean, there's people that come from East Lansing and Okemos and Weberville and Fowlerville and Dansville, and they all come to Williamston every day to participate at our fitness center. We host events where we get people from all around the Tri-County. I mean, people come as far as Jackson and Owasso. So we're bringing a lot of people to the downtown businesses as well throughout the course of the year. So it's a win-win for us to be able to move into this facility and allow us to continue to grow, but it only helps the city of Williamston getting more and more people into our downtown area.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming. I have had the opportunity to talk with Corey. He told me about the project earlier on, and that you guys were working through some issues. Councilman Weiss, Corey, and myself met earlier. I think Corey's got a plan to get some stakeholders in a room prior to going in front of planning, just to make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and with McKenna, with city, and planning commission representative, because Planning Commission definitely has to do their due diligence on any projects that come forward, and with Councilman Bizzard being on Planning Commission for many years, he would be the first one probably to tell you that we want to make sure that you're not going through that continuous circle and not understanding what needs to be done. Planning Commission wants to be able to see a project come forward and know that it's ready to move to that next step. I think there's probably some bare minimums of requirements that have to be done, whether it's county regulated, state regulated, so we want to make sure that it's clear that you guys understand that. I thank you for your patience. Birthing a new business, as Jeff can probably attest, is not an easy labor process, and I want to say thank you so much for being committed to having your business here in Williamston and having the growth that you've had and that you're experiencing, and I hope it continues to grow. So I want this project to move along. I think Corey will be back in touch with you guys to let you know when that next meeting can get set up, because I know you guys are anxious to move forward, have your answers, and find out if you're going to be able to push this project to the finish line. So,
With that being said, in the planning commission, we've done numerous site plan reviews and things like that, and there's always a big list of recommendations, changes, things that need to be corrected. And I think Corey's trying to narrow that list down so it's easier for you guys more than it is for us, and to keep things moving forward. And our hands are tied on certain aspects, but then they're not on others, so just, I mean, until I guess we see everything, I can't answer any other questions.
Oh, sure,
I have,
sure.
but, I
That's
mean,
our hope. Is
we're just trying, we wanna see it speedy and fast too, so.
Well, and we do too, and I think where we're at, I believe personally, with Aaron and with Scott, is we're at an impasse. So, you know, we need to talk with and I understand what happens with the planning commission, but we'd love to get to that next step. It would be a new step to be able to at least walk through and, you know, talk about things like some of the ordinances that I think it's important that if the city's requiring us to do it, then the city probably should as well. So we just want to talk about those things and then hope that we can just get this business moved without having to spend $50,000 on something that,
right.
per the ordinances, really doesn't need to happen. So, and I understand what I think McKenna and Aaron and Scott would love to have happen, but sometimes it's just not feasible economically. So.
Well, I'm glad we're having the dialogue with you guys.
Me too.
And I appreciate you coming tonight, and I know Corey will be back in touch with you to let you know when we can get that meeting on the calendar.
Sounds good. Thank you
Great.
for the
Thank
opportunity.
you, Jeff. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, yes.
there
On Railroad?
Street?
It's, the address is Cedar Street, actually. It's 417
Yeah.
Cedar Street.
But the bay doors actually face
The big
railroad
ones
off
do,
of that
yeah.
storage.
There's 7
Right.
big ones, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they overlook the railroad, so.
Great.
Good question, Ken.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys
Thank you,
very
guys.
much for coming, appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Any other audience participation at this time? All right, we will go ahead then. I'm looking for approval of the council meeting minutes for March 11th, 2019. If there's any changes that need to be made, or if we can move those forward as in our packet.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And what do we have for accounts payable this evening?
We have, not a large number this evening, it's a little less. But I'd like to make a motion, after reviewing everything, to pay checks 71546 through check 71606 in the amount of $117,494.78.
I do have one question, and I'm glad Chief is here.
I already asked.
Oh, do you have an answer? Because I didn't get a chance to email or anything. You can
Yeah.
tell me later if you have an answer, and that's
I
fine.
do have a
Okay.
complete answer on
All right.
everything that was bought and
Okay, all right,
procured for the police department.
all
I
right.
also have a question, Mayor. And Scott's not here, but maybe Cory can answer it. For, there's a line item on page 3 for Haviland, for wastewater treatment plant chlorine treatment for, and I think it's cut off, but I'm thinking it says Old Nation. Is that something we are reimbursed for, or?
It's a great question. So this is something that we've had to do at our plant to take care of an issue that we think has been caused by the business. We are in the process of working on a surcharge model to deal with things like that. So I had a brief note in my manager's report about we're looking at our sewer use ordinance, things we can and cannot surcharge for based on high-strength waste. So that would fall under that category.
Now, last year, when I know Scott started working through this with them, and we were having to do, I think, a third haul of this instead of the 2 regular, I believe the understanding then was that they were paying for that third haul. Is that still correct, or is that what we're working on with the sewer?
It's a great question too. So yeah, that's part of the framework we're trying to develop, is that it addresses it month by month as opposed to thing by thing. And so we would anticipate that those charges would handle anything associated with handling a high-strength waste, including the additional sludge.
Mayor?
Yes, Holly.
We need a second for that motion.
Okay. Any other questions regarding any of the accounts payable, or can somebody second?
it.
Okay, all right, thanks, Kent. Holly, will you call the roll?
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton. Yes. Paul,
Yes.
Izzard,
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right, now we're going to go ahead and move on to our action items this evening, sorry, excuse me. The first is the Williamston Area Beautification Fund Request for fee waiver of the band shell for the summer concert series. Any questions regarding this application?
I think it's wonderful that we have that. I love it, I love it, I love it. But when was the last time we charged for this?
Well, I think it's just, they have to submit it every year, and we have to approve it every year, so I wish we
No,
could do
but
it like that.
anybody, I mean, we
Oh,
get this
that's-
every week, almost every council, meeting we
Yes.
get this. I would like
Some
to
type of waiver.
waive I mean, why we build it?
Well, a lot of people requesting to use it are not for profit.
Yeah.
So that's 90% of where it's coming from. I don't think we have any for profits.
And it's also a way to control it so that you know who's coming and going.
Well, why do we have to ask, why do we have to fill out all this paperwork all the time?
Liabilities?
That would be a good answer as well. Tim, anything to add, or Corey, to help answer
all
that
jumping
question?
I think it's been mentioned for administrative record keeping.
Okay. All right. Okey doke. All right, so if there's no other questions, is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Holly?
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Izzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
I do think also it helps us keep an accurate calendar of who's using it and who's not for specialty events, so. Next item on our action item list is the second reading of the ordinance amendment regarding minors in possession of alcohol. And so, any other questions regarding this? I think we had good conversation last council meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance amendment regarding minors in possession of alcohol.
Thank you. All right, Holly?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have our wild type riverfront maintenance proposal. I know this is something that is done pretty much springtime, summertime, every year. So it's a little different each year because sometimes they do the burn, sometimes they just go in and do the cleanup. But it looks like, this year it's going to, take care of McCormick Park and then also, the island. Any questions regarding this?
I understand what they're doing, and I see a value in it, but I'm wondering if this is something we could, going forward, look at doing on an every other year basis, or what type of effect that would have on the ecosystem and things down there. I just look at it, and I know we have a lot of other big ticket items that we have to pay for that we can't quite find the money for. But, and if this is something that we could, in the future, when we're budgeting and whatnot, look at possibly, what would the ramifications be if we did it on an every other year basis instead of every year?
I don't know if they do the burn every year, because I know that you've been down there before when they've done it, because you've posted pictures and stuff, but, and I know last year they did not do island cleanup, because I thought the island looked a little too overgrown.
It's almost a necessary thing to keep after it, otherwise it's gonna get away from you. It's one of those things, it doesn't always look as good as it could, but you've gotta keep some of the invasives down, and they're experts and professional at getting rid of the certain things and preserving other things, so it's not like we could hire somebody to just go mow it down or something.
I understand the value, I guess I'm just saying that, you know, we have infrastructure needs and we keep.
But this is part of the Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, we're coming up to the budgeting year, we're gonna schedule a budgeting workshop tonight, and I guess going forward, I'm wondering.
So, Corey, has this price increased dramatically this year, or is it about the same?
No, to the mayor's point, it has fluctuated based on whatever service they provide, but I think it's been right around there on an annual basis.
And is this general fund or is this Parks and Rec fund?
It's general fund, but Parks and Rec is a department in the general fund.
Okay, all right, so we're taking money out of that pot. It isn't necessarily something that's coming out of money that's earmarked for infrastructure, water, sewer, anything like that.
Well, but it is general fund, so
Okay.
general fund is your fund that can pay for just about anything, so. So we have used general fund dollars to supplement street projects.
Right.
So that would be fair to say.
I guess I would also want to know too, and if we were to look at every other year service, or maybe putting this out to bid to see if there's someone else that can provide this service. In respect to the island or on the riverbank, is any of this also to help with erosion prevention? Is there anything that would be tied to that it would be a necessary?
Well, most of it floods almost every year as far as the
Right.
island especially.
Right, but if we were to start going in and taking stuff off the island or whatever, or, you know, like tree removal or anything like that, or cutting it down, or if we left it and didn't touch it.
And I'm just gonna throw in a caveat here, but I think this company's provided an excellent service. If you go to put it to bid, the cost to put an RFP and other costs is gonna cost you more than what we pay.
I know, and we've said that about a couple other projects in the past too,
Keep that on the table as well.
is that it could come in higher, or they could bid higher than what they provide the service for.
I know we have bid it out before, at least at least once, maybe more, but these guys have always done best value for good that I've seen. It was on the Parks and Rec, the Rec Commission when we went through this.
I was down there when they did the burn last year, they did a great job. It's not a reflection on them or what I think they do at all. I guess I'm just, you know, we have.
You're just asking, is there real need?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's gotta be some places hopefully where we can find, even if it's small amounts of money, as if we just keep spending it.
All right, good discussion. I guess at this point, I'm looking to see if anybody wants to make a motion to move this forward, or if we're looking to, table. What do we want to do?
I'll make a motion to approve the riverfront park maintenance proposal for the wild type in amount not to exceed $2,880.
Support.
All right, thank you. Any other further discussion? Okay, Holly?
Walton,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines,
No.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, moving forward, we have our Volunteers Community Park Site Design Proposal. And Corey, I guess right off the bat, I have questions about this because I know that Friends of the Park has been working on this for several years now with their fundraising efforts. And down towards the bottom of your memo, it says Volunteers Community Park does not have a concept site plan, but I thought in the different fundraising events and everything that Friends of the Park, they had a conceptual idea of the playground equipment they wanted to purchase, what it was going to look like, because they also had to submit that with their DNR grant request. So this is a little bit concerning to me that we're saying we don't have a site plan, but yet when they put in those different applications for money, they've had to provide that, right?
So.
Yes.
So they have the rendering of the playground equipment, and when you submit for a grant, you are right, you have to have an aerial image of what you intend to do. But there's a difference between sort of I'm gonna call it a cartoon sketch, where you might take a screenshot in Google Maps and sort of draw your lines on there, versus an actual, surveyed document. And so the difference there is, for example, in Volunteers Community Park, there is an active water main that runs through there. And so a proper site plan would take into account your water main location, the distances you need to work on that water main should it ever break. And that's where we're missing right now. As well as how that structure fits into the broader park. It's a very small park, it's not McCormick Park by any means. But the process the city went to about 10 years ago or so for McCormick Park produced that site plan, which was then used to apply for and receive the grant that paid for the walking trail that's through the park and some of the other improvements. And then it also became that guiding document for when Kiwanis comes and says, we want to donate sand volleyball courts. And so the plan took into account where those would fit, where a concessions ruling would fit. And so that was the intent here, is to provide that, one, the actual engineered drawings that we're required by state law to have, but two, to fit that design into the broader park plan, and taking into account any future items that has been thought about over there, such as a small pavilion.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about what Corey has given us, other than my
I
question?
do have a question.
Yes.
Is there gonna be hurdles with the whole commons and the parking and things like that with this proposal?
Yeah, I think what we'll probably intend to do with this plan is, we have a sense of what the plan is on that side of the area, to basically have a plan A and a plan B, depending on what happens there.
All right.
This is a tough one for me. It's the, kind of the same thing I just talked about. Friends of Williamston Parks have done an amazing job, and I look at it and I go, with all the work they put in, they deserve to have, you know, some input from the city on this plant, but at the same time, at this time last year, we were talking about putting forward a millage. And so that's my, you know, and I've got kids who would go down there and play with this, and I just, that's what I'm thinking about. It's a tough one, because they've put in so much work, and they deserve it, but building another park right now, is everything that they put in. I guess I look at the maintenance of it and whatever. I know the guys are already over there maintaining things, and,
Corey, do you know where they are with their funding at this point? Parks?
So I've got it here that they estimate the project at about 63,000, and my understanding is that they've got that funding.
Because I know the Kiwanis, I believe, we just wrote a check to them for over 7,000 in the last couple of weeks. Okay.
So if they have the money for the playground equipment, then really all that is being asked of the city, which I see on page 2, is the $8,425, which you clearly state here that we have sufficient budget to cover that. And that's been identified as Parks and Rec budget through general fund. Same as the burn for over there.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
got a contracted service line item within the Parks Department of the general fund. The budget this year was $47,000, taking into account a lot of things that are planned throughout the park system. I think at one point it was probably contemplated that we would have spent some of that money on our 5-year parks plan. And by virtue of doing 90% of that in-house, you know, we saved a significant pile of money there, probably $6,000 to $7,000. So not all of that has been accounted for, but, you know, we project out, we've got about 3 months left in the fiscal year. We felt comfortable that this is something we could do within the budget line item, you know, in recognition of the fact that they've basically come to us saying, we've got the money to build this.
Right.
And I did put in there though, you know, council has the policy option to say they have to fund the soft costs too.
Right.
You know, so it was definitely a discussion on staff's part, whether we go through this and have the city pick up a piece of this. But ultimately, we felt like, you know, the effort on the private citizen side, maybe the city needs to help with that
Sure.
too.
And my last question would be, if you've had conversation with Heather, because I know that we've come very, very close each time that she's submitted for the DNR grant money. Is she planning on, are they planning on trying to submit again? Because I know Rachel and her had worked on, you know, what did we fall short, you know, that last submission where we just didn't have enough points, and were they going to try to do that again, or are they at the point where they've got the money, they want to buy the equipment, they're just waiting for the city to move forward with this portion of it?
They've got the money lined up, they've got at least one that has a deadline by which to spend the money, and I think they were able to get an extension on that till the end of summer.
Okay.
So part of the urgency behind bringing this forward now
Right.
was to try to help that process along if the city's desire is to see it happen.
Okay. Have those soft costs been talked to Heather or Friends of the Park at all?
It was told to me that at one point in time, they were given a sort of a ballpark figure to have in the bank, but that was at the time that if they had gotten the DNR grant, that will cover your
Right.
soft costs.
Right.
And so in light of not getting that grant, I think the understanding is, you know, people donate money, they want it to go into
Right.
the physical product, right?
Right. Well, and, you know, I mean, several years ago, and this was probably within the last, you know, 10 to 12 years, you know, when the mayor of the city of Lansing decided that the city was not going to maintain parks anymore. I don't want to see our parks turn into what some of the Lansing parks have turned into. So I think that this is probably a small cost in order to maintain one of our parks that we do have. If they already have all of the money that they can bring forward for the actual equipment, so. That being said, does anybody else have any other questions?
The soft cost, I mean, if people are coming with park proposals, things like that, we all wanna see our parks flourish. And I just think sometimes, I mean, we're already gonna get hit with maintenance expenses and things like that as it goes on, that this is something that could be rolled into that. And I'm not trying to just pinpoint it on them, but there's other projects, and I'm sure the city's picked up some of the engineering, or the soft cost on, so. I don't know, I see it both ways, but I also agree with going forward, we need to kind of.
I guess, sorry, John.
No, go right ahead.
I guess for me, they've done so much work, I'm a yes on this, but going forward, any new developments at new parks and things like that, until we get the infrastructure under control, I'm a hard no on.
I mean, I kinda wanna go on the same boat, it's a tough decision, cause I know we have other parks and stuff and projects going. And then with fundraising, I mean, this is just, it's part of the cost of implementing the structure itself, you know, so, I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Anyone else?
Good.
All
I
right.
want to raise it for that,
Well, when I was thinking about that, I thought you already had.
so. No, I don't. I've got a shedding tractor.
You're right,
Well,
Ken's doing pretty good on his
That
end.
was not a shot at you,
No,
I was
Right.
thinking, you having gotten your big grant last year and a lot of development with that.
Yeah.
We'll just need you to volunteer to run the one.
All right, well, very good discussion, and I think we all know that our many parks in our community are very important. So with that being said, I'm looking for a motion to move this action forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the Volunteers Community Park Site Design Proposal from C to AE, an amount not to exceed $8,425.
So move.
All right, any other questions? All right, Holly?
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Grimes,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes. Excellent. Our last action item is setting our budget work session, so appropriate because we're talking about money this evening and our infrastructure needs, so that is something that we do every single year. We do have a budget work session so that we can approve our next fiscal year's budget. And it looks like Corey has given us a couple dates to consider. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at your calendars. I am available April 11th, but I am not available the 15th and the 17th. In looking at my calendars, what about the rest of council members?
11th is good for me.
I'm available the 11th.
I'm good at March, so I'm.
Okay. I don't look like looking into the future either, Ken, but.
Oh my gosh, they don't have anything.
I can do the
Yeah,
Alright.
sounds good.
Thursday.
I have no idea.
Okay, all right, well, it's okay if there's, you know, and it's a work session, I mean, it's not a mandatory requirement, need quorum, it's where we talk through with Rachel, with Corey, they answer questions for us, we ask some good hardline questions, especially when we're looking at trying to trim things. So yes, what time, Corey, would you like to schedule that for?
What have you done in the past?
I was
Six.
We've had
Yeah.
6 before,
That would
because
provide a
I think
decent-
we've spent, you know, hour maybe, I don't think we've ever gone longer than 2 hours for a budget workshop.
But we've also gone an hour and then had another one on top of that. So
Right.
then
Right.
You got through different funds.
I think the
Yep.
intent would be to start with one and see
If
where
we
we
need.
because I will probably take a slightly different approach than
Sure.
maybe historically. and-
Okay,
But you may say that you want other information, so,
okay,
I think just getting something on the calendar was sort of the intent tonight.
great.
6 PM, April
6
11th.
PM on the 11th. So I am looking for a motion to move that forward for a work session on April 11th at 6 PM.
I'll make a motion to schedule a budget work session for April the 11th at 6 PM.
Second.
All right, Holly?
Bizzard?
One more question,
Can we
sorry.
check on the venue? Because last time that we had it down at Nisa, which was wonderful, with the boardroom and the chairs, and it was just a lot nicer.
Worked a little better.
We do that because we need to record the
Yeah.
sessions.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I just-
Yeah.
I mean, we've had Denver.
We've had goal setting down there,
Okay.
but we've not had budget workshops down there.
So, here,
Here.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right, Holly, would you call the roll, please?
Bizzard?
Yes.
Bellinger?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Rhines?
Yes.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Walton?
Yes,
Hall?
Yes.
All right. In your packet, for discussion items, you have a memo from Corey regarding youth recreation services. This is a fantastic memo, kind of identifying the trends of where our summer sports have, been, and seeing, participation up, down, dropping off, what it's costing us. Me personally, I would love to see Red Cedar Recreation come back, because I think that that was one of the coolest things that I was able to do growing up, and my daughter was able to do growing up. I think there's several here around the table that maybe had some RCRA t-shirts when they were younger, or might have coached. I would love to see that come back here and have our own groups again. And I know that Sting is operating under their own. It looks like football wants to operate under their own, so that doesn't really leave a whole lot to participate in Meridian.
The only issue, in full disclosure, my oldest son is signed up for T-ball with Meridian right now, so that's out there. But the reason he signed up for T-ball with Meridian is because Stings do not start any baseball until second grade and above.
Sure.
So they don't offer any T-ball. So that's the only reason we went to Meridian. And I think, and we were looking at flag football for him as well, and that's through Meridian. I don't think that the football operations have brought that here either. So we would love to be doing it here, but it's only offered there.
Can I
Yeah,
chime in?
yeah, absolutely.
So this memo was brought on by some discussions that we've had recently with Meridian Rec. And I think it's important to keep in mind that Meridian Rec, it's our program. The city of Williamston contracts with Meridian Rec to provide that service here in town. It started in 2011 when RCRA went away. And I think for the first 4 to 5 years, financially, it worked out very well. It was basically a break-even operation for the city. What we've seen happen in the last 4 years, this current contract, I might get it wrong, but I believe it's the Football Boosters Group. They took on tackle football and cheer, so the Meridian Rec program no longer had that opportunity, but it was still being offered, so the kids still had that option. At the same time, the Williamston Stings have grown in numbers, and you can see in some of the data, the baseball numbers each year, it seems to go down as that group has become a real player in town. Basketball, if you look at those numbers, those have also gone down as another entity has taken, I think it's like 4th grade and up. And so we basically are at this point now where financially, it's not making as much sense as it used to, particularly when you account for the fact that if the city has to then subsidize the program, right now only 23% of the participants actually live in the city limits. So you've got your townships, the city's paying for that cost, which has been a bit of a challenge, just philosophically, I think. So what the intent of tonight was, we started out at the Parks and Rec Committee as a discussion item, and I think there was by and large a feeling that rec is a good thing. But then you also have the financial reality of, is that a program the city wants to create a line item budget for? Because that's what we're facing. And we're also facing other groups, they're knocking on our door asking, hey, we want to take over flag football. And we might start it even if we don't officially take it over. So that would plummet the numbers a little bit more. So we're nearing a point where I do have concerns that we may not have the partner in Meridian Rec to keep doing it, because the numbers just aren't where they used to be. And so really my question to council was to get a sense of, you know, the value of that. But if we have these other organizations, if we can figure out, will there be a landing spot for all of these? Is this something that could go away?
That was my thought process as we were talking about this, kind of what I was getting at was, you know, with the flag football, if it was in with the Williamston football program, I don't think there's a problem there. The only problem I see right now is, you know, and that's why the numbers are dropping, is because more and more of these organizations, and they wanna keep it in town, the parents go with those, but then they're not starting with the younger kids, and that's the only thing left with Meridian, and it's,
Well, see, and that's where it's, these club teams, I call them, are growing and going younger and younger. So like, for instance, football, they start young, and it's the same program, same coaching, the material they're coaching is the same all the way up. So when they get to high school, they're prepared, same thing they've been doing all along.
I get that, I'm just saying,
I
for
know.
another 2 years,
Right.
you don't have that option right now.
So, but my question was, and I think I proposed this to you a while ago, was if we withdraw from the rec, are city residents still able to go and sign up with Meridian Rec and participate?
Yeah, it's a good question, John. I think the answer is yes. Would we have to have some kind of agreement? We don't really know that yet. Or can they just go there, sign up, and they participate? The sense that I've gotten is that there would still probably be some people that they don't wanna do the club sport or maybe
Right.
the higher level. And so there may even be a path for them to still offer something where they play some of their times here.
Because I know I asked you, and I'm assuming this chart is all what would have been RCRA, the program we're administering going to Meridian. That's the townships, everything. So we don't truly know how many city residents are truly, you know what I mean?
No, I do
What is
know
that?
that.
So
They-
it's on this,
they-
there's a
they-
chart.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah, so in 2018, there were, this is on page 9A, page 1. It's in my memo, John.
Okay, but I must have missed that part.
Yep, so we had 379 participants, 89 had a city of Williamston address, which equates to 23.5%. So when I saw that number, and I think about some of the things that Dan's thinking about as far as all the things we have to pay for, I think when you think, okay, that means 76.5%, even if we're only paying $1,000 to Meridian, that's $765 that we're paying on behalf of a township resident.
Yep.
And that, when I got that data, that's where I'm like, okay, we need to have a discussion about this. Historically, that wasn't an issue because there was enough participation that the fees that the residents paid covered the expenses.
Right.
But as we get to that tipping point,
Well, again,
So-
the club sports are taking those
Right.
away.
that's
So,
true too.
and when this started, I remember big meeting, this room was filled, I was sitting out there, and it was, the school's stopping RCRA, they're not doing it, came to the city, and I mean, it was a big thing. A lot of people here picked it up, and then slowly, Meridian started, well, not slowly, but Meridian took it, or we had Meridian do it, and then people slowly started pulling away, starting their club teams, and now
Right.
that's kind of overtaken it. And, you know, those parks, you can go to Meridian, go in their parks, you can get on their email list, and there's, run this race here, this event going on here in Meridian. I've heard complaints from other city residents that, hey, my kids, all their games are in Meridian Township and they're not utilizing the city fields. You know, things like that, so all that brought all this to
But
light,
yeah.
and it can,
They should be using the
Right.
city fields here because we're a part of the Meridian Rec.
well,
I can
Program.
verify that because we have 3 baseball fields that we maintain in the township, which get almost, 2 of which have had no usage
Right.
for the last few, and we may have usage on the 3rd field this year, which hasn't been confirmed, because they want the field fees in Meridian, which makes sense for them, but
So Corey, do we have contact for who leads the Sting program, who leads the football program, who leads basketball? And would there be an opportunity to get all of them in a room and ask them, out of your parent base,
Yep.
is there somebody that would be willing to step forward to oversee Williamston Recreation again? And see what where that conversation would go. And so that we could start using our fields, so that we could start having kids play in their hometown.
Right.
And so with that being said, when this rec millage came about, how many ever years ago? and
Yeah,
it keeps
exactly.
going, Where are those funds actually going?
That's a
going
school
to?
thing, I believe.
But that was all part of, if I remember when that was pitched,
Mhm.
RCRA was part of that. You see what I'm saying? And honestly, this is something the city got into when we agreed years ago to take that on, and now, you know, nobody wants to see it go away, it's just dollars and cents now when it comes down to it. I'm providing, I mean, I know there's grants and stuff that people, all they have to do is say, hey, I need help, and that's where a lot of the funds come up, and we'll pay for the scholarship for them to play the sport.
The question I have, and Scott's not here, so maybe it's something we can ask him at a later date, but the only city baseball field that we still have that I'm aware of is the one sitting over at Memorial Park, which has not truly been maintained as a baseball diamond for like 7 or 8 years, because I played rec softball. There was the last city field available, and it wasn't available to us at that time because the one night, Monday night a week, wasn't enough field fees to continue maintaining it, which makes sense to
So I
me.
can
So
tell you
is
that-
that something we even wanna?
So just a few comments. So today, when it comes to baseball, most of the time is spent on the fields at the elementary schools.
Correct.
So there's the city field and Memorial Park. So I think it's fair to say that their practices, like they're in Williamston, they're using Williamston schools' fields and field space. Basketball, they use gym space at the schools. Flag football, not exactly sure where that's held. But I think there's time for those things too.
I believe flag football is in Meridian Township.
I think
I've
he's
never
talking-
seen anything in town.
We're talking about the difference between the Stings program and the actual Meridian Rec program when we're talking about, because the Stings use all the elementary school fields and
That's where they use the soccer fields too. the
Yep.
practice and all that.
Well, it's a
and
baseball field too.
the rec used to be on Williamstown Township's fields.
Right,
because
right.
They built a fence out
Right,
there and all,
right.
and then that's dried up. They now,
Right.
I think it's probably because of the growth of Stings, they need less and less fields, so now that traffic is being pushed onto Meridian Township.
Yeah, I think that they're using the fields at the schools.
Okay.
I know that because now that there's demand, there's conflicts.
Right,
What do you mean, we can't get Tuesdays and Thursdays at
Right.
7? So our program is being housed in Williamston.
Mhm.
They may have other games against teams from Hazlet and Okemos and things like that, but to say it's not in Williamston, and I think too, they've gravitated toward the baseball field in the city and the schools, because there's no fees, but I think when they go out of there, including
Right.
Williamstown Township, there's some fees,
Yep.
and so
Right.
that's part of trying to keep that cost down. To the mayor's point, I have had discussions with 2 of the 3 groups. There's one group I have not yet, but the discussion has been more along the lines of, is there a willingness to, open it up to those smaller levels, or make sure that there's opportunities for all, as opposed to trying to get it all under one
Mhm.
umbrella? I don't think that's likely. I haven't asked the question though.
Okay.
But really, the pivot point that we're at as staff is, do we make a recommendation to basically cease being involved in youth sports?
Yeah,
Or do we have some other path? And we don't wanna do either of those without understanding the consequences and making sure that there is a landing spot. And maybe part of it is, to Councilman Visser's point, is there an opportunity to still go through Meridian Township, which has, I think by most accounts, a great rec program. They also have a rec village, so they've got
Right.
funding to do that kind of thing.
We had a rec village too.
it was at the county level.
It was,
Yeah, it's the county level.
because I thought this went with RCRA and the pool that's at the high school at one time.
Will you look into that, Corey?
Yeah, the school has a millage the school district has a millage for rec.
I'd like to go back and see the verbiage, to be honest with you, how that was presented and when it was originally passed,
Yep.
if that included RCRA.
Yeah, if you could look into that for us, that'd be fantastic.
It was a while ago.
But
Sorry.
also getting those,
Should,
yeah,
I was just gonna say, millage proposals should not, as a rule, identify the recipient by name of who gets the money as a contractor, because then you're stuck with that even if they go out of business or whatever. It should be for the purpose, for recreational purposes, and leave it to the public body to decide who to contract with to spend the money. But yeah, you could look at it and see
Yeah.
for sure what it's.
But then also getting those entities together and brainstorming and asking them, do you, if we decide to pull out, are you still going to use Meridian's facilities or go through them? Or do you have enough movement to revitalize something here, and is somebody willing to take it over?
I was gonna say, because throwing football out there, the football program mirrors what the high school program.
Well, and back in the day too, Red Cedar Rec used to operate through the Williamston Community Education, which we all know that each individual municipality doesn't necessarily have community education, because we have community education at the college level that then, fans out to the municipalities that the college supports. So a lot of that went away when community ed went away at the local level. So you'll get back with us on some of those findings, Corey?
Yeah, I wanted to get a sense, because there's gonna be a recommendation at some point.
Yep.
First of all, didn't want you, the community, anybody to be blindsided.
Sure.
But we're going through some of these things, and so we wanted to get a sense from you.
It makes sense to me why he's brought it up, because with those usage numbers, it doesn't make sense to be subsidized.
To be transparent, is there something we need to hold, I don't wanna use the word public hearing, or something on this decision-making process and let it be known that this is something that we're looking at? Because as big as that was when that transpired, I hate to see something like that come back and then.
Right. That's been on my mind too, John, just having heard some of the history. So I thought this is a good first step, talking to these other groups, and then we'll fashion something from there.
Great, thank you.
One more thing, I guess, and this may be water under the bridge now, because where we're at. I didn't realize, I knew we signed up through Meridian, but we checked with Stings first, because that's where, if you're thinking about baseball in Williamston, you don't think about rec with Meridian, you think Williamston's baseball program is the Stings. So if you're calling them and saying, nope, we don't offer that, are some people saying, okay, well, we have to wait till second grade, or does everybody know they can then call Meridian Township and use that? Because we actually called some parent friends and started asking them, and that's how we figured it out after having called the state.
And you know what, I know Will with Studio Job, they're looking at a welcoming center for Williamston.
Yeah.
This would be something where, I hate to throw it on them or put it off, but having some sort of resource guide that, hey, if you're gonna be in the area or living here, this is where you can go for these resources, whether it be sports, rec,
Well, and I'm dating myself, but back in the day, the Chamber of Commerce, and there actually used to be like the welcome basket people, that if you were new to town, and they knew you were new to town, somebody brought you stuff that had all those different types of things in it, a resource.
I don't remember that. I don't.
So, I don't know, but that's a good idea, because Will is working hard on that concept. All right, well, thank you. That's a lot of good dialogue for an important program for the kids in our community. We definitely need to see what we can do to see if it's something we can maintain or not. We did receive correspondence regarding statewide tornado drill, which is scheduled for this week, March 27th at 1 p.m. There will be a statewide tornado drill. Chief, do you have anything you want to add to that as far as do you know what? It's
pretty
just
self-explanatory,
the siren.
just be aware that it
Siren.
is just a test.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right, thank you. We have Corey's city manager report, and I have a couple things underlined. So I'm just gonna throw this out here real quick. The very top bullet with the bi-monthly utility billing moving to monthly utility billing, and I know that Rachel and Ann are working on this. Do we have an idea as to when they want to launch this?
Great question. So we plan to do a presentation to council on April 8th, the next council meeting. talking about what we've discovered in researching this option. You may remember it was discussed at our goal setting briefly, but it was identified as one of our council goals. Assuming that meeting goes well, we would have to have 2 readings of an ordinance to make some changes that are regarding the billing policy. And the intent would be to start that with the July usage, which would be your August bill.
Okay.
There's a lot of ifs there. There's a plan in place, which Rachel and Ann will do a wonderful job explaining and being open to questions.
So with that, why it's on my mind, I don't know if you wanna make a note, I'll make a note. Is that first bill, when we go bi-monthly, going to be inflated due to the usage? You see what I'm saying?
The way that they've outlined this, you would have your normal bi-monthly bill that you would get with your July 1st reading. And then we would have a transition period where you'd get another read on August 1st and you get that bill. So it would be a interesting transition because you're gonna get your 2-month bill in July
And then a
and then your
one.
1-month bill in
And I do know
August.
that'll be high water usage for certain people with pools and sprinklers and things like that, that's why I'm asking.
Right, but yeah, technically, it should be cut in half from what you would normally pay.
Okay.
We just need to make them aware that they're gonna get 1 monthly then.
Yeah, and there's a whole communication plan.
Okay.
We're not taking this lightly, that's why we're starting,
No.
we almost were gonna start tonight, but there's a little bit of things that still need to be worked on. So if council ultimately opts to do this, rest assured there is a definite communication plan to make sure we get the word out.
Okay. Your next bullet point, you talk about possibly looking at what citizen engagement efforts, getting ideas and everything from a group through MSU. And one of the things you highlighted was infrastructure concerns. So my question would be, not to put you on point, but how are we doing with working on our infrastructure ideas, funding, because we're rolling into April.
Sure.
And if we wanted to do anything, we know we have hard deadlines, which are August.
Right. Totally understand the question. Part of putting this in there is to make council aware, we haven't lost sight of it, we know it's important. I think the path of what we need to do as far as community engagement is clear, that we need to do this ahead of making a decision. And so between the city manager conference I attended in February, I focused a lot on the citizen engagement sessions to try to pick up some ideas, and then getting this connection right here in East Lansing has been really helpful. I've gotten some additional resources, and so I'm hopeful that within the month of April, we've got our budget, and so that's one big thing, but we've got a plan in place. I just need to write it, design it, but the idea's been kicking around for a few months now. And what I'm hoping is that I can tap into some resources there without, needing an expense. Because
Okay.
obviously they have great resources to help you through these things. But, there's a price tag. But there's apparently a local facilitators, charrette group that can help you with some of these things. And so I'm still banking on, maybe there's a local person or two that could help us with that. Because it really is, to do it, and what I think is gonna be a proper way, it's a big task.
Yeah.
And so to fall on one person's shoulders, I think it's a little bit daunting. And that's where trying to find some of these outside resources, I think, has been the plan.
Okay, those were my questions. Anybody have any other questions for Corey about this report? Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add?
No, I was gonna talk about utility billings.
Okay. All right. Do you have a question?
I can leave her for my comments.
Okay, all right. Chief?
Nothing to report.
All right, well, thanks for being here and smiling. Appreciate that. All right, I will move on to subcommittee reports. Have you attended any board meetings that you want to give an update on? I know we've not had a lot of agenda items, and therefore we've not had some meetings, so. All right. Another opportunity for audience participation out there. Anybody? Okay. And now I'll just move right on to council member comments, and since Bizzard said he would add his to his comments, I'll just start with you.
Mine was, we had the public comment on the planning commission and things like that. Have we looked at checklists? Sorry,
Nope.
that was something I wrote down because that seems to be,
One in the ordinance.
you know.
Corey's got deja
So,
vu because I already asked him about this earlier tonight, so.
So one of the things that maybe isn't always clear to everybody, but the zoning ordinance has a table, and depending on what you need, there's a little dot. So that, the checklist is that document.
Revamping that document to make it.
Well, I think putting it in a way that somebody might check on it, yeah. I think one of the reasons we haven't like jumped into making it is because the application says you must follow the requirements of that section.
But I'll tell you, me looking at that, that doesn't look like a checklist. To me, a checklist would be where, okay, yes, I have this document, date,
Right.
initial type thing. Just something to where, when they meet with you as staff or McKenna, that, okay, this is what I need, you know, and it's something that can be tracked. Because we've dealt with situations where people come back and say, well, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me this.
Yep.
Right.
And maybe it's just taking that document, that table, and then making it more applicant friendly.
It's not like trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just
No,
making
it's
it more-
taking that and making it more applicant friendly and identifying if you are commercial, if you're residential, here's what you need.
This may apply to you, this may not apply, or getting the answers.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Other than that, I have no other comment.
I will flip down to Councilman Rhines.
A little over a week ago, we lost a staple of the community, Ben Junior Moline, a lot of longtime residents know Ben. He was the sexton at Summit and Foot Cemeteries for over 40 years and worked out there for over 40 years. He was a real treasure. I had the pleasure of working with him for the last 9 years. And he just watching the way he worked and methodically did things was amazing. And there were a lot of young people in this town that had the opportunity to work with him and for him for years, and they didn't go on to continue landscaping or digging graves or whatever, but he was very good at teaching people to take pride in their work and what they did, and to follow a process the same way every time, and you'll get an amazing end product. And he was a treasure we had in this community for a long time, and we lost him last week.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. Mr. Hall.
Yes. Would you pass one of those down? Sure. Can I get you the pens out there before they leave? I'm going to be making myself available starting Saturday and all Saturdays in April from 12 to 2 at the Okemos Baskin Robbins ice cream place. That sounds like fun. It'll help my diet. The owner of that is a guy by the name of Tom English, who lives here in Williamston. He's part of the Williamston American Legion. And I'm going to have some information primarily dealing with post-traumatic stress, but also for veterans, as far as maybe getting them to join the American Legion. I will also have this book. It's the best book I've seen as far as post-traumatic stress disorder or injury, depending on whether you're talking to me or someone else, same thing. It helps family members, it helps people suffering from it, friends, helps you understand. So maybe you can kind of steer someone in the right direction. It's a $20 book. I get it free from either the VA or the Purple Heart Foundation. So I just pass along to others. I've got a pretty good supply. I think I'll have enough. So again, that's at Baskin Robbins, 1917 West Grand River. Saturdays in April, 12 to 2, and then this Saturday, 12 to 2.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr.
No
Mumford.
comments tonight.
All right. Ms. Walton.
I'd like to thank Corey and Earl for getting my son down to the park. And also, are you going to be a movie star?
Oh, yeah.
We'll see.
I think you'd make a very pretty movie star.
Nice. Spring came, so we just are finishing up with our no parking on the streets from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. The remainder of this month, you never know when weather will happen, so please remember that. But as we move into spring, you will see our city staff out there with leaf branch collection that we do keep it posted on our city websites for those services that the city does provide. And I would just maybe suggest that we all go to Baskin Robbins and have some ice cream with Kent. I know Twisters is open, so it's a fun change of season here in Williamston. Lots of activities will be happening. I would just encourage everybody to get out and enjoy our city. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn this evening's meeting.